Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Ask a Farmer. And we had a last minute cancellation, but we have an even better treat for most of you guys. We have the CEO of Harvest Harmonics, Frank Arlia, is joining us today because he just got back from a 2 or 3 week trip to Italy. And he's, of course, every time he goes, he always brings back all this amazing information and updates and all the stuff that Fulvio has been working on. And it's always very exciting for all of us to get that debriefing. So we thought we'd share that with you today and let you guys know the latest updates of Kyminasi and everything that's been happening. So Frank, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. I'm kind of. This is the first time we've been doing these, or you've been doing these shows for quite some time now. This is the first time that I'm actually on. So thank you for having me.
I know you're usually the busy one, making sure the whole engine's running on a constant basis. So
Yeah, so it was kind of fun. It was just last minute cancellation. I said, well, I have a lot to talk about, so why don't you just interview me and have me on your show? So. Number one, thank you. And it was 16 days of traveling. I have to tell you that the traveling wasn't that bad considering the circumstances the world is under right now. I traveled on a COVID flight, so you have to wear a mask the whole time. But it was interesting. It was very interesting. In Europe, things are opening up. It's kind of getting to some form of normality. People are doing well. The world has adjusted. They've come back, and here we are. So I'm happy to be on the show. I know this is speak to a farmer. I don't officially qualify as a farmer, but I love farmers, and I've spoken to so many farmers that I could tell you that I can speak on their behalf. I feel that comfortable. So go ahead. Let's see what the listeners want to, the watchers and the listeners want to know.
Yeah. So the first question I think I want to ask you is, what news do you have from Italy? I know you were there. What kinds of things did you learn from Fulvio?
Well, he's on the move. He sees what the feedback we've been giving him from the farmers around the world, and he started just investigating that data, Plus, we have results coming back from scientific trials, and they're consistently doing their own trials just to get to learn more about the technology. It's almost like think of a manufacturer. They make a perfect car, and what do? Don't you keep test driving it? And you keep test driving it, and then they do all these crash tests, and they keep testing it. You keep testing it, keep testing it, keep testing it, to see how good is it really. Mm-hmm. It was good enough to go to market, and that's good. But then, what else do you want to know about it? And so it's the same thing. He's been consistently working at advancing the tech by learning from, because I don't know, most people probably don't know that this is version 6 of the technology, and the 5 prior versions were great, but they weren't ready for commercial use. And version 6 was the first one that was, Tech 6 was commercial use, and it's just a phenomenal results. So he's been studying the results and realizing that there's some places around the world that are suffering from lower light levels. And so he's been experimenting with the next version, which probably won't be out for 2 or 3 years, because when it comes out, there's got to be tested and so on and so forth. And it would only be tested in countries that have low light problems, like, I would think, Canada, North Russia, like areas like, Siberia. And there's other parts of the world that have problems with sunlight, not enough sunlight, too much cloud cover, so who knows? England may be a good qualifier, so, it's an advancement that he noticed that those countries would benefit from. Now, if you took that same technology and you put it in, into a country that has a lot of light, it may not be the best thing for plants. So,
We get to the
so
point we burn them out, unfortunately.
we don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
So it's
But we can make Alaska turn into something as maybe as productive as
imagine,
in the United States. The rest of the
imagine
mainland.
exactly. Imagine getting the Alaska and countries or states, areas that really have problems with sunlight and cloud cover, benefiting just like and up to par or close to production levels as countries that are near to the equator where the sun is, abundant,
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things that he's been, working on. What fueled all of this was when we launched. We launched. I think it was it February of this year. We came up with the wild idea of 1,000 scientific trials all over the world, right?
Yeah,
And
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, because I know that's the number one question we get from all farmers is, what university studies do you have, and where are the results and
right.
that kind of stuff. And I know we already have several ongoing, but yeah, tell us about this program because that seems a very ambitious goal to have over 1,000.
Yeah. So the backstory is when we launched in 2019, right? We were really excited. I'm sorry, we launched in 2020, in the early 2020. We were really excited, and we had 3 scientific trials getting started up in the United States, and that was, it was, well, hold on. One was with
Florida,
Rodale. One was
I think, right?
Universities of
Was it Florida, right? Was one of them.
Quincy, the Quincy
Florida.
in Florida, University of Florida, right? Quincy Extension. And the third one, we were in negotiations with, oh my God, up in New Jersey.
Was it Rutgers?
Rutgers. We were in negotiations with Rutgers. And then out in California with, not UCLA, but, oh my God. Come on, big ag. Come on, near where you used to live.
Davis.
Yeah, UC Davis, right?
Yeah.
So we were in negotiations with both of them to get these trials going. Those were negotiations that we were just wrapping up, right? But the 2 that were scheduled to get started, all of a sudden, COVID hits, and everything's shut down, and there's no trials anymore. Mm-hmm. So we sat there, scratching our head and saying, "Wow, we needed these scientific trials because we want to document, right?" And we lost almost a year. So when COVID came to, pretty much an end, right? We looked at this and we said, look, we want to make sure this never happens again. So we launched the 1,000 scientific trials around the globe, around the world, just so that we can get university feedback, and proof of what we're able to do in all different, areas of agriculture, from weed reduction, microbial activity increase, absorption of water, reduction of water usage, increased less evaporation of the plant, evaporating water, so you're more water retention, and then all the things that we've seen, right? Increased ability of photosynthesis, increased yield, shelf life of the fruits and vegetables. We came up with 40 different trials, and we said, we have 40 different things that we can test. We have all the technology to put out there and let them test it and do whatever they want with it. And so we launched the 1,000 trials worldwide. And it was to avoid ever having any type of shutdown. So even if we got 50 trials going and 10 of them survived, we'd still have 10 trials. The other 40 shut down. So we figured, let me just launch 1,000 and get them going. So we got about 32 in a few, just about 5 months. We got about 32 going. We've got several going in South America. We have one going in Israel. We got 2 that started up in Nigeria. We have a couple going on in Italy, home base, obviously. And so the idea then it started to morph this idea, because that feedback, all that information that we are getting back is helping Fulvio to plan for the future, the next advancements. But also we realize that, each one of these trials is about 40 to 50 pages. So let's just take an average and say 45 pages. So 45 pages times 1,000, that means we would have about 45,000 pages of scientific research, right? And the biggest encyclopedias in the world they average about 36,000 pages, 24,000 pages. Some of them are 16,000. Those are smaller encyclopedias. So we would have an encyclopedia of research just on the Kyminasi Plant Booster technology. And that's the goal. I mean, and then that would bring us to, the World Book of Records, having our own encyclopedia of scientific research. Like this idea started morphing, and sure enough, we put it out there and we started promoting it. And we didn't even promote it that much. And we started getting reaches from universities that want to work with us and test drive us, like, solve the problems that are happening in their countries. And so we actually are getting some interest right now from Dubai. We're getting some interest from Turkey. And I could go on and on. I mean, they're starting to come out of the woodworks, which is good, because that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted 1,000 scientific trials around the world.
Yeah. And I've got some guys in Dubai and Mexico too who are also reaching out to universities, and we'll add to that total and we'll get there real fast.
Oh, you know what? I think because there's some hot stuff happening right now in Mexico, I think we're going to wind up with 5 or 6 nice trials with different universities in Mexico. That I can see happening in the next 3-4 months for sure. There's some good stuff happening, but there's going to be universities. Rodale is going to come back online. I mean, we were talking to them already, looking forward to that. We'd like to do a trial with someone that's connected with Omri, just so that Omri can certify us as 100% organic, because there's nothing inorganic about what we do. It's just that we're equipment. We're not an input.
Right.
We're not a chemical. We're not a fertilizer. We produce radio waves. And so the bottom line is there has to be somebody out there that's listening, that has a contact that can, work with us on getting that certification with some of the top, organic certifiers, because we qualify as organic, but our technologies can be used by any farmer, non-organic and organic,
Exactly.
So, we're looking forward to that. Come on, hit me with another question. That was an easy one.
Okay. Well, the next question, I'm not sure you know the answer to, but I wanted to find out, do you have results of our ongoing trials that are already in progress?
We do have results. They're in South America. We have 11 trials that are very promising. 2 of them, the results are being computed now. They're finalizing their reports, and then we have to translate them from Spanish to English. But they already told us that they've never seen anything like it. Like, they're super impressed. The other 9 are in, I think, 3rd quarter or 4th quarter phases. So they should be coming to an end and then quantified over the next couple of months. So we're going to have those results.
That's our almond trials too, going on in California. Those should be done in a couple of months.
Those, the only thing with the almond trials is that they're being done by scientifically, internally, by a pretty well organized company, but they're not being monitored by a scientific ag research center. Although they're being done at a scientific level, they're not being monitored by by a third party science like UC Davis or Caltech. I would love to have them on board and say, hey, you know what? We've got almond growers. We've got tomato growers. We have grape growers. We've got vineyards. We want to see how how you test drive in those areas, and we would monitor them. And we have a program designed where we don't get involved. We don't get involved on the financial end because we want to be independently evaluated. We don't want to pay for these trials, not because we don't have the money to pay for them, but it's we don't want to be, I paid for that trial, and somebody can say, well, of course, that's the way it works in this world. You pay for the trials, there's going to be some biasness. We don't want that. We want where the way we set up our system, and it's working because we have universities that like this system. We have representatives that like the system. We have farmers that like the system. So it's just a matter of finding the right match of scientific universities that want to put us to the test drive. They have the fields and the farmers that would be interested in these trials, right? And would benefit from it. And a simple example would be, we have a university that says, hey, you know what? We want to test this, and we want to do it on 100 acres. Great. 100 acres. We turn around and say, that's about $35,000 worth of technology. Great. We go to the farmer that they want to work with, and we make an agreement with the farmer. We say, look, we'll give you $35,000 worth of technology, and, on a grant, scientific grant. You have to agree. The farmer just has to agree, because we already know statistically that we're going to make that farmer, with that $35,000 of technology, depending on the crop, we know we're going to make them $70, $80, $100, $120,000 more. So they're going to make good money, because of the results that we've been providing over the next 2 years. We're willing to give them the $35,000 worth of technology. They just have to sign an agreement with the university that they are going to pay the university. We're out of it. We want to be independently evaluated, So we gave the technology, on a grant, on a scientific grant, basically for free, to the farmer. The farmer gets the benefit of $35,000 worth of technology. He then signs up to do a scientific trial with the university of his choice. If it's not the one that recommended him, he could pick another university. We don't care, as long as they test at least 4 or 5 things that evaluate and value that $35,000 of technology we gave him. We're happy, and that gives us more scientific data to indulge into.
Yeah, that's a definitely good system.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a win-win-win. Everybody wins, and we've got universities signing up, and we've got farmers interested in promoting it and finding universities to work with. So this is good. It's good. It's getting exciting. 1,000 trials around the world. Okay, so that was an easy question. Give me another one.
All right, let me give you a question from our audience here, so you can answer that. It says there are many people familiar with fertilizers who do not believe that such an organic technology can exist. What can you tell these people?
There are many people familiar with fertilizers. Okay, mm-hmm. I don't believe the organic technology can. Okay, that's fine. I mean, the simple answer to that is, everything in life has a natural vibratory frequency. Everything, because everything's made of molecules, and molecules move. Even in a piece of steel, those molecules are there, and they one would think it's a piece of steel, it doesn't move. Okay, but there is a measurement of a sound to that steel. And this is science I don't need to explain because it's all over YouTube. You can look it up yourself. You can find that there's a vibratory sound to everything. So they can look that up themselves. Fertilizers have a combination of different signals. We have over 3,000 signals in our technology that will enhance almost all the fertilizers that are out there, because most fertilizers are a combination of about 6 elements. Most fertilizers. This technology was based on 23 elements. In other words, there's not a fertilizer out there that has all 23 elements. Okay? But most of the fertilizers in the world have at least 6 of the 23. And some of them may have 4 of the 23. So we already have in our microtransmitters the booster radio waves to boost 23 of the elements that all fertilizers use. So we would boost the existing fertilizer. So a simple test would be, a university or a scientific lab or a farmer, would do a side-by-side comparison, control versus Kyminasi, use the same exact fertilizer on one plot, and they use on both plots, same exact amount of water, same exact fertilizer, everything the same. But watch the difference of what happens when you combine Kyminasi with that fertilizer. Chances are, from what our experience, so I say chances are, but our experience is the Kyminasi field is going to overpower, overgrow, overyield, overproduce, be more superior than the control field. And we've just seen it over and over and over again. So the simple answer is, no matter what fertilizer you have, we can help you.
Yeah, and I always tell people to keep in mind that when you're putting a fertilizer onto the field, you're really just handling a very small piece of the metabolic processes of the plant. You're just giving it a nutrient, which is maybe 1/10 or 1/20th of the overall metabolic processes of that plant. The Kyminasi Plant Booster is actually stimulating every one of those elements, like you said, 23, 24, 25 different parts of the metabolic process, so the entire system is increased. And that's why we're seeing 20, 30, 50, 100% increases in yield, where fertilizer, you might get 5, 10. You get a really good fertilizer, you're not going to get that same result because you're only handling a small piece of that puzzle.
Exactly. We handle the whole process.
Exactly. So Lisa from Boston asks us, we said, we're having a summer of rain and my crops are suffering. Can your technology help out with too much rain and not enough sun?
Okay, so what we have seen by experience is that because we also handle part of the absorption of water, okay, what we've noticed is plants that receive too much water, okay, I'm trying to think the best way to explain this. Okay, if there's not enough water, there's radio waves that handle the plant retaining water so it holds on to water so it can survive better. If there's too much water, there are radio waves that handle when the plant is going through that process that it's basically drowning. Okay? So there's radio waves that handle the plant being able to flush that water out. In other words, process it faster so it doesn't suffer. Doesn't absorb more than what it needs, it doesn't drown. Now we've seen this recently. It was about 4 or 5 months ago in Chile, where there was a whole area like the Napa Valley that was hit with torrential rains, a tsunami of rains for about 5-6 days, almost a week in what would be the Chile Napa Valley. in comparison. I don't remember the exact name of the location. And what transpired were all the grapes were overwhelmed. And so the majority of the valley was destroyed, because too much water builds up mold. And so most of the grapes, they lost everything. There was one farmer that had 3 different farms with 3 different types of grapes with little to no damage. And he was using Kyminasi. He was using the Kyminasi Plant Booster. He made it into the newspapers. He made it on radio shows. You can look it up. I mean, he was pretty well known. But at the end of the day, what it really came down to was that process. We've seen this with other plants. We've seen this in other environments. This is not new to us. It's just we're a little surprised when we hear about torrential rains and then, these types of results. So we're happy. We're not happy about the torrential rains. Many farmers suffered, but we're happy that we were able to help at least the farmer that had our technology. What is important is that if there's excess rain during the sowing process, in other words, when you just planted and the plant hasn't had an opportunity to break through the ground and form some leaves so that it can get the process going with photosynthesis and really get the full benefit of the technology. If the plant doesn't break ground and it's just at the beginning process of sowing, there's nothing we can do. We need for the plant has to break ground and have some leaf structure so that the photosynthesis process can start. And that's when we are best utilized. Our technology is best utilized. So if in Boston, they have existing plants, and they were using our technology, great. If they were just sowing and just started, I don't think we would have been able to help them anyway. That's just a reality point.
Yeah, the biggest problem with extra rainfall or too much rain, too much water is you'll start to get root rot and you'll start to get funguses and those types of things, like you mentioned, molds. And but that is one of the areas where our technology just continues to show that we're always improving that. So yeah, Lisa, if you've got that problem, for sure, give us a call. We'd love to help you out with that. And I think that's about it we got today, guys. Looks like that's all the questions and comments, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Frank, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk with you and hear your enthusiasm, because it's definitely something that when you're out to change the world, you definitely need a personality like yours who just goes after it and and takes the bull by the horn, so to speak. And we know a lot of farmers are thanking us, everyone that we talk to, that that are taking advantage of the opportunity they have before them and getting this technology in their farm now. Those are the guys who are really appreciating all of your hard work and Fulvio's hard work and everybody here at Harvest Harmonics. So really appreciate having you, and look forward to speaking with you again sometime.
Thank you. And on that note, I'm thinking, I wonder if we should have, a topic, ask the CEO, maybe once a month.
Sure.
Just once a month. Why not? I can give updates as to, what we're doing, where we've been, where we're going. I think that would be good. I think that would be an interesting topic.
Yeah. So guys, if you're watching this video and you had the gauntlet's been put down, so type in your questions and comments and stuff, and we get lots of questions and stuff for the CEO, and we'll have a special CEO episode, and we'll talk to you guys. We'll have Frank on again and have him answer all your questions for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Frank. Have a good day, guys.
Ciao.